2015, Victoria walked on to the #1 ranked volleyball team in the nation at USC. Despite low expectations, Victoria became a starter, playing in all 36 matches her true freshman year, and would appear in all 136 matches the team played during her 4 years. Victoria's volleyball career at USC consisted of a Pac-12 conference championship, 2 Pac-12 all academic honorable mentions, 2 seasons serving as co-captain, 2 USC Best Passer Digger Awards, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week honors, and finishing first in the Pac-12 conference with the most total digs as a senior. Victoria finished her career with the top 5 most digs in program history. Despite a successful career on the surface, the high-pressure environment of collegiate athletics took a toll on Victoria's mental health. She battled and overcame depression and performance anxiety as a student athlete. Victoria now tours the country as a public speaker, sharing her experiences with mental health and body image issues at universities, college campuses, high schools, and conferences alike. Thank you, Victoria, for joining us today. So in college at USC, you joined the volleyball team and you began to experience mental health issues. Can you just give us a brief overview of what you experienced mental health-wise?
Yes, I was someone in high school who was very confident, very outgoing. I rarely struggled. Fortunately, I was very lucky in like that high school bubble I grew up in. And then when I went to college, it was like the pressure of the new environment I was in as a high-level Division I athlete, coupled with, you know, the academics, being away from home, a whole new life around me, was really a lot to handle. And I don't think I was necessarily prepared for that. And I also had never struggled. So when I started to not be able to balance and juggle everything on my plate, I started to develop performance anxiety, which was specifically around my volleyball. Am I good enough to be here? Am I going to mess up? There's hundreds of people watching. It was just a whole new level of play. And then kind of dealing with that anxiety. And then I also was dealing with issues with my self-image and my body and my self-worth. And I struggled with my new eating regimen at school. And that kind of led me to disordered eating and binging. And so that freshman year for me was just a lot of stress, a lot of worry, a lot of fear, and just trying to control and figure that all out. And that kind of led me to my sophomore year where I experienced depression for the first time in my life because I had kind of ignored what was really going on.
Right. Okay. And so in terms of symptoms, were you like not showing up to class, sleeping in late in terms of your depression? And then anxiety, how did that all like manifest itself in terms of symptoms?
The performance anxiety manifested itself as like crazy heartbeat before games, shaking hands, watering eyes. I always just felt like wanting to run away. Like the last thing I wanted to do was play a volleyball game. And that was so weird for me because it was this thing I was so good at. It was this thing everyone knew me for. And now all of a sudden I had no belief in myself and I was afraid. So that's kind of how the anxiety kicked in. And along with just constantly overthinking, constantly checking my watch, not being able to fall asleep at night, waking up at 3 a.m. thinking I'm late for something at 6 a.m. So it was just kind of every day feeling a little bit on edge. And then the depression for me was, I mean, the best way I can describe it is just feeling like I had tons of cement or just like weight on me and I could not shake it. And I would wake up in the morning just hoping it would be gone, hoping I could be the way I wanted to be, and I couldn't. And, you know, I stayed in bed a lot. I cried a lot. I ate. I did, you know, my sophomore year of school, everyone works an internship. Everyone adds something to their resume. I went home and did nothing for the summer because I literally had nothing left, I felt like, to give.
Oh, wow. It must have been hard.
Yeah, it was. And it was frustrating at the same time because, you know, mentally we approach things like shake it off, just cheer up, let's go to the movies, let's hang out with a friend, like let's just get rid of this. But you can't when you are dealing with mental health or mental illness. It is something that is broken. And, you know, I eventually got on antidepressant medication while I went to therapy because that was something I needed to get better. The same way if you tear your ACL, no one's saying, just sit off of it and hopefully tomorrow it's healed. We're going to the doctor, we're getting stitches, we're getting extra things to help recover. And that was also hard for me to understand at the time. I felt like I should be able to shake it off.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so you went through your anxiety and your performance anxiety and then your depression. How did you come like full circle? You had mentioned that you just, or that you're on medication or you were on medication and went to therapy. So kind of like, how did you come full circle? And I guess maybe where are you now in terms of your mental health?
So I got to a point where a lot of the reason for my mental health issues was being a student athlete. And it was tough because that was also the thing I loved the most about my college experience, but it was so hard. So for me, you know, while the sophomore year was probably the lowest I got, my junior season, I was right back down near that area. And it was wild because I had already given a TED talk. I had already advocated for mental health. And then here I am still struggling. And I never claimed to be perfect at all, but it just goes to show that once you even know what's going on and you want to get the help, it still takes time. And my junior year, I ended up, after our season, I took some time off of volleyball in the spring to really get right. You know, and I was a big advocate of going to therapy and working on the mental side of the game and dealing with my performance anxiety and the way I talk to myself. And I'm someone that really wants answers. And if you tell me something, I will do it. It's hard with mental health because there's not a guidebook like that or a magic pill that makes you happy. But I used that kind of go get it attitude to ask, like, find a mentor, go to therapy, read the books, like do my best to try to get better. And I took that time off and I ended up having a clear head and feeling better and feeling like I want to take on my senior year, knowing what I know now. And I think I can do this. And my mindset is just going to be to have a good time. It's my last year. You know, I know what I know, I can do this. And so that was kind of my mindset going into my senior year. And that was the best I ever was mentally with my mental health. I just got to a place where I wasn't freaking out about being late. I wasn't getting anxious about making mistakes. I'd made so many mistakes. I had missed so many things that I knew I was going to be okay. So it definitely took me time. And then in terms of where I am now, overall, I am definitely in a much better place. Mm-hmm. I still have my bad days. Actually, today was not a great day for me.
Well, me either. So there you go.
No, like literally I sat down and I had a big video to film today. I sat down and I filmed it and it didn't feel genuine. I felt like I was doing something I had to do. I didn't want to do it. And then after 3 hours of filming, just deleted it. And then I thought I've wasted my entire day. And I have no idea what I'm going to put up later. And like, you know, like, and it happens. And that's just one example of, I don't feel clicked today. I'm saying things, I'm smiling, I'm talking, but somewhere inside, I don't feel in rhythm. And that happens to me sometimes. And I feel lucky to be aware of that. You know, right now I'm able to say, oh, this has been a weird day. Why has this been a weird day? How can I productively think about this? How can I use this? Whereas before, a day like this would happen and I would just think, you know, I wouldn't be aware of it. So my mental health obviously ebbs and flows. I'm human. I don't believe in anyone being happy all the time. I mean, if you see that on Instagram or whatnot, it can't be real. So I take it day by day.
I think we all do that. You know, you're doing the right thing, and it's true. No one can be happy 24/7, even if they claim they can be.
Yeah.
So as a mental health advocate, and in terms of athletics, why is it that athletes suffer from mental health? Is it because, it has to do with pressure, it has to do with being a perfectionist, body image? What is it all about?
I actually think the main thing that needs to be noted when talking about athlete mental health is the reason why it might be harder or seem more difficult for athletes to get help than a non-athlete. Because I think anyone can experience mental health for any reasons. I mean, there's athletes who experience mental health for reasons you said, the pressure, the tight uniform, the stress. But then there's also athletes who also have tough family lives, have childhood trauma, have other things that non-athletes experience that lead them to mental health. But at the end of the day, there is a stigma around mental health for everyone, that you're weak or you should need someone else. So everyone experiences that stigma. And then we take the athlete who is known in society to be a warrior, to be strong, to be someone who figures it out and gets it done and is clutch. And, we idolize athletes in society. Like, everyone watched the Michael Jordan documentary. Everyone knows Serena Williams. And so when you're in that category of universally strong and supposed to be tough, we couple in that stigma of you're weak if you ask for help. It's really hard to do that. So for athletes especially, it's important to raise awareness and destigmatize mental health, because they need to know they're not going to be weak. They're not going to be any less of a player, any less of a captain or an athlete if they need help from someone.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. And athletes definitely, are a particular group of people. And like you said, there's tons of people athletes that have, mental health illness. And it's really important to recognize that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of non-athletes who feel that same pressure to be strong. Maybe you're the one in your family that always succeeded. You're the one in your family that always did this. And so, everyone feels that pressure, and it can be the reason you hold off on getting that help.
Right, no, for sure. So many athletes, as we all know, you probably know some, personally, take steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs, which unfortunately some have gotten caught using. What is your opinion of these drugs, and do these drugs actually escalate an athlete's mental health? Do you agree with using? I guess, do you agree with using these drugs, or do you think it makes it worse for an athlete that's suffering from mental health?
Well, I'll push back a little. I don't think we get drug tested in the NCAA. There's a lot of regulations and rules. So the amount of college athletes, even professional athletes, who can get away with significant performance enhancing drugs, we hope is low, right? Because that would be an unfair advantage. So at the college level, I didn't see that happening. If anything, it was like, abuse of Adderall or things like that, those other more convenient daily drugs that people are prescribed. But I definitely am someone who feels like if my doctor has not recommended something for me, that's going to help me be better in some aspect, I don't think it's the best. And that was always something that had my own, like, I am afraid to take Advil. Like, I'm the kind of person who's like, I want to feel my pain. Like, my back injury, I want to feel it. So it was even harder for me to take an antidepressant because it made me feel like I had lost in some way. So personally, I am someone who, at the advice of my doctor, like, will take the medicine that I think is necessary to help me feel better. But anything additional, anything added on to that I don't necessarily need, why risk it?
For sure. So in terms of the stigma of mental health, do you think the stigma in mental health, in terms of individuals who are athletes, do you think it has changed since when you were in your freshman year of college, dealing with mental health, anxiety, performance anxiety, depression, and we're on the volleyball team? Yeah, do you think people, also athletes, have learned to be more open with themselves or open with others in terms of their condition?
Yes, it has wildly changed in athletic culture. It is so cool to see. I mean, the biggest comparison I can draw is when I was depressed. I remember Googling, depressed athlete mental health, and genuinely finding nothing. I found I think I found one video. I found nothing really that made me feel good in any way. No one I recognized. I was not overwhelmed by what I saw. And so my inspiration to do my TED Talk was, if someone Googles this, my video will show up and they won't feel like so helpless. And now, if you Google athlete mental health, I mean, you'll find Kevin Love, you'll find Simone Biles, you'll find DeMar DeRozan, Kobe Bryant, all these iconic athletes talking about this and raising awareness. And, to have someone like Michael Phelps be in a national campaign saying, go to therapy, like I had mental health issues, and Simone Biles saying she takes antidepressants. It just, you can't explain how much that does for the athletic community. So it has changed drastically. It is so awesome to see that change too. I mean, it's just been 4 years, and it's awesome how quickly that's moving.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially of what you do, public speaking, being, mental health advocate, body image, and so forth, it probably also really is rewarding for you, because you are helping with that change too, especially with your talks and
Thank you.
who you are as a person and so forth. What, if anything, today would you like to see in mental health and athletes in particular? Should there be more mental health awareness? Should there be a crash course, quote unquote, on mental health? When someone gets, it joins a team. What do you think about that?
I think that there definitely needs to be more mental health resources available for student athletes, specifically. So many campuses just don't have enough psychologists, don't have good enough psychologists, don't have the support or resources necessary to give their athletes the help they need. And I don't think it's appropriate to put 18-year-olds in an environment that is most likely going to cause them mental health issues and then not have the resources to back that up and help them. And I honestly, it's something that I want to figure out ways to actually make this change. And I'm working on some of that now, because, every team has an athletic trainer who's there to dote on the physical injuries and any physical harm to players. Mental health is just as important as physical health. So we need to get a mental health specialist, someone who is properly trained to deal with and help with these things on those teams, helping for the mental health, for the invisible injuries that happen. So I definitely think that is a big thing that needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously, as you had mentioned, mental health has changed drastically since the 4 years from your beginning, that you've seen it grow and so forth. Do you think people or athletes have kind of overcome their mental health challenges? And, in terms of our mission, A Different Enable, with being different and able, they've learned A, how to manage it, but B, kind of realize that their mental health doesn't have to be a deterrent to being a successful athlete?
Yes, I definitely agree. Mental health is not a reason that you can't succeed. It's difficult, it's an obstacle, but it's not about the fact that you are going through something. It's how you get through it. It's what you learn from that. And, to anyone who is dealing or struggling with something right now, everyone is dealing and struggling with something. All humans are suffering. Like, let's go back to Religion 101, like where you learn all humans are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just reminding yourself that everyone has their own battle to fight. Yours might be something people can see every single day. Yours might be something that affects this aspect of your life, or the reason that you're set back a few years here or there. But everyone's going through something, and getting through that, overcoming that, working through that, similar to how you did, has only made you stronger and empowered you and taught you incredible life lessons. So I think kind of fighting to see the silver lining in what you're going through will allow you to feel even greater in that triumph.
And so when it comes to people at Paralympics, you've seen them as an example, and, you know, Paralympic athletes, they're not all physically able to walk. You know, some are in wheelchairs, some are, are more severely impaired than others. What would be like your words of wisdom in terms of, you know, them, you know, having to deal with mental illness in addition to their other challenges? Because obviously there's a little bit of a gamut in terms of regular athletes and those that are challenged. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try to be really careful about speaking up for the experiences and things that for the issues I've experienced. And a physical disability is not something I've experienced, and I just definitely wouldn't feel right trying to even comprehend like what that might be like for someone, because I only know the mental side of things. But I actually just interviewed an incredible Paralympic medalist on my podcast, Mallory Wegemann. She is incredible, so inspiring, and she is a swimmer. And I think what I learned from her was just she has such a determined, driven mentality, and she views herself as an athlete. I view her as an athlete. And she says, you know, people see my chair or they see what I do in the water. And I think the more we can talk to these athletes, amplify their voices, hear about what their journey has been like for them, is a great way that we can start to understand the experience for all athletes all around the world from all different backgrounds who are on that same path to greatness. And I think it's even more inspiring and incredible to see people persevere through those physical disabilities that so much is stacked against them, and then to see them succeed is, I mean, it gives me chills.
It's amazing.